I feel like women are more in prison now than we've ever been in human history, yet we have more access to rights and expression than ever. Because what is being expected of us within society is absolutely fucking ridiculous. And the way we get off the rat wheel, ultimately, is everything is okay exactly as it is, and so is my desire for more.
Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back to another episode of Deja Blu. I'm sitting here again. I feel like at this point, it needs to. The name of the podcast needs to be changed from Deja Blu podcast to Deja Blee Brew Bree Blue.
Ow! I'd be flattered, but Deja Blu gets to stay.
Okay, well, I mean, because people are like I had a couple of comments saying that they weren't sure if the podcast had just merged into our show because that's been quite a few times of you being on the podcast. However, I just really love riffing with you and chatting with you and breaking down many different topics that just pop up over the human experience of just being alive. And you have an amazing way at riffing at topics that are super important to unpack and break down and take accountability on. And so today is no different. And we don't know what we're going to talk about until you actually get to the house.
It's true.
We've had our drop in, we had a cup of tea, we sit down, we've got the mics ready, the lights on, ready to go. And then I turn to you and say, hey, Bree, what do you want to talk about today?
I kind of roll my eyes back in my head and pretend to pull something out from somewhere else. And something always comes.
Always. That's when you know this is what you're supposed to be doing, is showing wisdom. And so today we're going to be talking about... the word.
The feminine principle.
The feminine principle, but there's a deeper what's the word when I'm really blanking right
Validation.
Boom. Okay. So the feminine principle, but not just the feminine principle, breaking it down into a bit more of a micro topic of validation. Before we go into that piece, if you don't know who Rev Briana Lynn is, then you clearly haven't tuned into the Deja Blu podcast. So I'd highly recommend pressing pause, going back and checking out some of the other podcasts. We had a #1 hit on the Deja Blu history, which was cultural appropriation and the witch hunt, season 1, episode 11. Mm-hmm. 1 hour, 11 minutes and 11 seconds long. Mm-hmm. And this is where she came into the Deja Blu Hall of Fame and just really hit the ground running. And it got that podcast is, besides the Sadhguru one for obvious reasons, that had the most plays and the most ears and the most shares still, even into season 2. And so we just had her back. And Reverend Briana Lynn is a reverend. She is the founder of a church called the Earth Temple, School of Shamanic Arts and Temple of Prayer, as well as I have been a facilitator and a student of the Earth Temple. And I've learned a lot of my ways through being a student of this incredible, incredible creations, as well as you guide people into their wildness in vision quests. And also now you have an online program for women, or as you would say,
pussy havers.
Or womb bearers. So I love the wording that you use on the website.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We're being inclusive. Not everyone identifies as a woman. So we're specifically talking to those who have pussies.
Right.
Wombs.
Yeah. Okay. Amazing. And so you've got this Orgasmic Oracle.
Yes.
Launched currently, and it's running your first round right now, which is being successfully, wildly successful, as well as supporting you to show up in your Oracle and be of service and to illuminate and support other sisters to fill up their cup. So that's just a little snippet of what it is that you do, as well as you have a TEDx talk coming up.
I'm so excited.
Which is exciting.
Thank you for referring me as well. This was definitely through your connection and your inspiration and seeing the platforms that we get to traverse, right? Like we're, a lot of us, the witches, the mystics, the outcasts, we're infiltrating Instagram and we're getting into certain ways in social media, but to get on these stages specifically of technology, education, and design is really rare. So just thank you for being a bridge and let us continue to spread the word. Those of us who are in the alternative voices department, we get to also enter the mainstream in big ways.
Yeah. Media is medicine.
Yes, it is.
And what are you going to be talking about for the TEDx?
I'm going to be talking about suicide to shamanism and my journey. And I'm thinking of calling it sensuality, from suicide to sensuality, because it's so much more than just the shamanic process, but really the return home to my body. For I had about 4 years of suicidality, which is fantasizing about taking myself off the planet, right around the time that I was also in an awakening, and would go back and forth between, deeply being in, okay, I'm healing this, to basically giving up, and then was introduced to some ancient technologies that really supported me in coming home, just coming home to myself. And it's been a forever coming home process since then. Like I'm not speaking from a place of, oh, I've made it, let me tell you how to do it too. It's more of like, this is the journey that I'm still on. And here's how I got to get my soul back into my body enough so that now I can be an embodied and effective leader on this planet. But not that I have all the answers for someone else, but the process of coming home through ancient technologies.
Amazing. When is this TEDx?
The actual day that I'll be speaking on will be January 29th in 2022.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes and ears peeled for this. This is really, really exciting. I'll be there in person in the audience. With a massive sign.
Yes.
Also, if you tuned into the last episode, you'll know that my dog likes to fart during these podcasts, and today is definitely no different. And
she's farting away right here. She's definitely letting it go.
Let another one go. Can you smell it?
Oh yeah.
That's why I mentioned it, because when I'm talking, I can almost taste it.
The cringe. It's definitely a cringe moment. Lily.
It burns. Okay. Validation. Let's just talk about that for a hot second. Validation is left, right, and center and hidden in the cracks of our consciousness, and we don't even realize that it's playing such a huge decision-making, part in our decision-making.
Yes.
Specifically now with social media, and also just going deeper into peeling back the layers of patriarchy and how is patriarchy contributing to needing external validation. Where does it start? How do we identify it? How do we unpack it? And this just feels like something that is ripe because you're on currently like a sovereign experience where it's like, I am not seeking to get feedback or validation or someone to tell me that I'm doing something right or that this is okay, and really learning to be in that place where the are notes to go out to grab and for help, and to actually be like, hey, I can do this myself, and to start reprogramming and rewriting that. So this is something that's alive for you in your experience. So I'd love to just open up this conversation of, it's not even going to be a question. I'm literally just going to go validation.
That's my favorite though. That's how we roll so well.
I'll just like create like a ramp, but I don't need you to walk. I don't need to walk you over it.
No, I will.
I'll just give you a word.
Run.
Validation, go.
On my unicycle, just up the ramp. Here we go. So the context of this is me coming forward with my experience of abusive patterning in my past relationship, and diving deep into some cognitive behavioral therapy. And she also does EFT and EMDR, and getting into the body around what pieces in me created an ecosystem to receive the amount of domination and abuse that I experienced. Like, what in me created this? Now, I want to be very clear. I have done over 1.5 years of therapy to get to the point to start to inspect my piece in an abusive relationship. So I'm not suggesting for people in an abusive relationship to immediately start to look at their piece. There is a lot of healing that needs to be done. There's a lot of support and building an ecosystem where we can actually unpack the pieces of abuse, the pieces that have been traumatized. And when trauma is happening, it's really difficult for the individual who's receiving the trauma to identify it. And that's been one of the biggest pieces that I've gotten to see. While I was in the trauma, I didn't even realize it was happening except by my body's responses. But because I had an idea around what the relationship was supposed to be, I just plowed through it essentially. So my work, internal work, has been to slow down everything and actually feel the pieces where I said yes to things that I would never allow in my daughter's field. Like, what in me said yes to someone speaking to me that way? What in me said yes to that kind of treatment for so long? What in me said yes to financial and sexual manipulation? What in me said yes to watching someone lie about our lifestyle? Like, what in me said yes to that? And that has been a really important question, A, to no longer project the blame onto the other person, and B, start to do the internal work. Again, after a lot of support from a trained professional who's trained in what trauma that's happening right now. Not just someone who can do trauma from your past life or from your childhood, but someone who's trauma informed now. So the big word that has been coming through in these past few months has been validation. And this specifically has come through not only with my therapist, but also my amazing coach, Kendra Kunov, shout out to her. She has a program called the No Man Diet. And when she first told me about this program, I was like, oh, that's like the intro program for like women who are super codependent and like need some time away from men and like are judgmental. That's not for me though. Like I'm so evolved. And not that I thought that consciously, but I could feel that part of me that was righteous about like, that's cool for them.
Yeah.
And she didn't even offer it to me. There came a time where I was like, oh my God, this is the thing that I need to do, because as I was breaking up with my former partner and as I was starting to explore other relatings with specifically the masculine in male bodies, I can see the places in me that almost need that validation like oxygen. Like if he doesn't text me back in a certain time frame, or if I'm making eye contact and he's not, or if I walk into a room and I'm not noticed by him, I'm doing entre comillas, the quotation marks with my fingers right now. Him is literally any masculine-oriented attention. So I'm specifically talking about the feminine within us. The feminine energy is the nurturer, the connector, the lover. It's both in female-bodied and male-bodied people and non-identified people. We all have the nurturer and we all have the protector. We all have the omega and the alpha. We all have the feminine and the masculine. As a pussy haver, female-bodied individual, I'm going to be speaking mostly about women's experience in this. I am not an expert that can generalize and say that this is for all women, all feminine ID'd, all pussy havers. This is my experience and what I experience with my students and those who are attracted to my work. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And the words that I may use might be exclusive to a certain extent. Please know that I'm talking about the polarizing energies that create charge and attraction. It's the masculine and feminine at play. It's the alpha and the omega. It's the north and south poles of our planet that allow things to rotate. So these things aren't at opposition. They're actually in magnetism with each other. So as I'm in this transition, leaving a 4-year relationship and entering into this field of open magnetism around me, I could notice the places in me that needed his approval, needed his attention. And whether it was from a roommate or from a lover or from my friends, and noticing how much I was relying on people to tell me that my experience was right, not only of the abusive relationship, but pretty much everything. I was looking for this coming out of a relationship where I was receiving a lot of validation, receiving a lot of attention, also receiving a lot of domination and control. That combination is the patriarchal side of the shadow masculine. So within patriarchy, there's both the shadow side of the masculine and the feminine. The shadow side of the masculine is domination, and the shadow side of the feminine is manipulation, utilizing subtle techniques to get what you want, usually seduction and emotional hooks. Domination is usually physical stature, loudness of voice, threatening in an outright way. They are both tools of patriarchy. And patriarchy is the way I define it, is the systems at play that put the masculine energy as more valuable over the feminine energy and male-bodied individuals as more privileged over anyone else. That's the current system at play we have, is patriarchy. It does not benefit male bodies or female bodies over the long period of time. It inappropriately gives privilege to male-bodied people.
Which breaks down in the gene key of what we were talking about of weakness.
Yes.
Weakness would essentially be like an archetypal representation of the patriarchy, which is placing the masculine principle as domination over the feminine principle, which inherently creates actual weakness within the being because it's an imbalance of the energies.
We want to have a balance of those energies, or at least a harmony, right? Like it may not always be balanced, but that there's a way to weave both those energies in a
dance as
way.
opposed to a fight.
And so within myself, I started to see this place in me that reaches. I've been calling it the reach. Now, ladies, pussy havers, when we walk into a room and we start giving the point system, I want to talk about the point system, the +1, -1 that we give to every other woman in the space of like, I'm either more attractive or less attractive than that woman. That
the +1 on the -1. Imagine if we actually had like a buzzer next to us that went like, you look and it goes, ding!
Yeah.
+1.
And then she walks in and is like, -2. You know? And that unconscious process, this is very in the body. We are taught how to do this from Disney programming, from the way that we're sold cosmetics, the way that Cosmopolitan says she's hot, she's not. We're taught to compete with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, remember that? Who wore it better?
Yeah.
This is all programming for us as women to have this frequency of competition. And I'm going to name some unconscious patterning that I've noticed in myself. When I proclaimed that I was having a no-man diet, it was like the energy of my system went into the fish tank of my body and started shaking up all the shit that's in the little rocks underneath that hasn't been touched before. And maybe I've felt it in certain ways, but being able to name it as it's coming out, because I've slowed down. Instead of trying to reach, I'm not looking for a partner. I'm not looking for their lover. I'm not looking for friends right now. I'm not looking for anything else to add to my life. I'm actually cutting out a lot of fat right now, actually eliminating and getting really clear on who are my intimate connections. In that process, I've been able to see how many people I've kept around because they either validate me or because it looks good on paper or because of any reason why I stayed in an abusive relationship. I stayed in that abusive relationship because it looked good and felt good sometimes, but mostly because it looked good. And I would not have said that. There was a part in my, other than conscious, in my body that felt in order for me to be a leader, I needed to have a strong man who looked like this by my side. And the process that I'm in right now is how much can I choose me, that I am bespoken only unto myself. The actual definition of a virgin, if we go back to the original meaning of the word, was a woman who could only own herself. At the time of marriage, when it was institutionalized, specifically in Greek and Roman societies, a virgin was a woman who chose to not marry and get her father to sign off on a paper so that she could actually own property. It didn't mean she didn't have sex. She fucked as much as she wanted. She just couldn't be owned by a man. So in this process of re-virginizing myself, of energetic, sexual, and also what I consider like any sort of reaching celibacy, I've taken a vow of celibacy to not reach for validation from any outside source. And that +1, -1 game that we as women do in a space of like, who's the attractive one in the space? When we start to notice that piece and can catch ourselves, it's like a Mr. Miyagi catching the fly kind of thing, because it happens so quick. What do we do with that? The process that I've been in is just noticing it, like catching it with the breath, taking a deep breath into my womb, into my pussy, and just being like, I see you, I feel you, I got you. Like, I'm here for you. And that one who's like, well, who's going to love me? And well, I'll sit next to this one and not next to this one. And she's intimidated. And it's just like, oh, can I be with the part of my nervous system that starts to feel either threatened or that I can dominate or that I can overpower, that one that feeds on that unequal energy in the space. Learning how to be with that one is incredibly uncomfortable. I didn't realize how much was still in me in terms of programming around needing to be seen, liked, and validated. So that's one of the pieces. The other piece is like when we walk into a space and see who's qualified to flirt with us. Men, women, body, whatever. But that specific energy that I give out, right? I'll just switch it right now and like play with you for a moment. But like there's a specific energy that we as human beings have that opens our sacral chakra, and it goes from being here to being here. And it's this different type of thing. Like, well, like
I
our
felt
lip,
that. Wow. It's subtle, but it's not.
It's subtle, but it's not. And that is the energetic cheating that we as women can pick up on a lot stronger than those who are in male bodies. There is a way that our solar plexus and our sacral can turn on to other individuals and welcome in sensual and sexual exchange that right now I'm not participating in. That I'm choosing to not share that energy with anyone, even energetically, because that energy is the beginning of creation. And it's the place where in my last partnership was incredibly leaky. And I got to sense it so much in my body. And when I would bring it to this individual, what I would have reflected back to me is that I was crazy or jealous or out of my mind or these things. And what I've started to realize is that I am extremely sensitive to the way that the feminine and the masculine play in that energetic space, in that magnetism. There's nothing wrong with this energy. It's very beautiful. It's just that it opens up the possibility of interacting in a sexual way. And what precedes actual sex is the sexual energy. So it's like, what's the point of cheating Is it actually copulation, or is it opening up the sacral possibility in the flirt? So that's the play.
Do you feel like it's a decision though? Like when you're in the presence of somebody and all of a sudden your body's just responding in a way that's like, oh, and it catches you off guard as well. Can you really recoil that in though?
So it's a choice when it's conscious. For most people, it's not a choice because it's not conscious. Most people are flirting and expressing their sexual energy in a not conscious way. Someone who takes a vow of celibacy, and I've been doing some studies on this, like what is celibacy actually in its purest form? It's returning all of that sexual energy to God. It's saying, I'm going to take all that juice and turn it in on my own pussy and turn it in on my own heart. So when I start to feel, and I've had to watch it because I've also been unconscious. This is not notes from a teacher who's got this down from the past decade. This is notes from a student who's been celibate for like 2.5 seconds. Okay. So let me be super clear about my fucking context, because I'm a sexual being. I love that shit. And when it comes on, I want to ride that energy, right? Even if it's just like with a new dress, like we can be sexual about many things, but specifically with the person, I'm not saying that it's better to shut it down or better to be celibate, but there is a place where we all get to come into relationship with the consciousness, bringing our sexual energy to consciousness so we can make a choice of like, you know what, I'm allowed to let out a little bit of flirt here. Yeah, I'm in a relationship, but this feels in integrity. This doesn't feel integrity. When I start making comments about his body, okay, that's the line. Cool. Or when he starts to make comments about my body, that's the line. But a little bit of like friendly flirting, I'm okay with that energetically. It's not good or bad. It's, is it conscious or not conscious? When it's not conscious, it's going to be the reach for that one to give me something I can't give myself. Mm-hmm. That's the distinction. That's the vampirism, being a vampire, whether it's masculine or feminine. When we are interacting sexual energy, even if it's just energetic, even if it's just a flirt, if it is not a chosen flirt, if it's not like, yeah, this person's interesting, I'm going to choose to let more of this open, or at least conscious, like, hey, I'm letting this open. And it's this unconscious thing. It comes from this place of mommy and daddy didn't give this to me. I wasn't able to give this to myself. I was never taught how to get this. So I'm going to try to get something from this person.
So that's where you think the validation is born from, is like a child that did not get that validation as a child.
For sure. Or didn't have parents who knew how to self-validate, right? It's not even that we have to give it to each other. The best thing a mother or father can do for their child is teach them how to treat themselves, not by how the father treats the child, but how by the father treats himself, not by how the mother treats their child, but how the mother treats himself. How many times my mom told me not to hurt myself? How many times my mother told me to take care of myself? But watching my mother in her addictions and in her patternings, what I learned from my mother was how she treated herself, not by how she treated me. Sure, that can cause trauma, and when people are hit and when people are abused. Yes, that causes trauma, but because the deeper trauma is the self-harm, the self-talk that's nasty that we can feel but we can't name. Mm-hmm. Validation isn't something that's so overt. It's very, very subconscious. It's very, very under the radar in most of us. And so it's like, you walk into a store, you notice someone noticing you. Go, Lily, go. Go, Lily, go. You notice someone noticing you.
Go, Lily, go.
She's going. You notice someone noticing you, and does that like pump you up? There's nothing wrong with the pump up, but to acknowledge it and be conscious of it and be like, that gives me a little something. I understand that. And ultimately what I'm looking for is that I choose me. I love me. I validate me. I think it's always important to have people who are intimate in our circles to help us reflect back when ego has taken over. Vital. We cannot live in a vacuum. You cannot give all yourself the self-love. You cannot give yourself all the self-validation, nor would I recommend it. However, at the beginning and the end of the day, the first consciousness that we come into interaction with is our own. So starting to refine that consciousness around one that actually chooses this experience is the beginning of it all. I choose myself. All of me, the good, the bad, the conscious, the unconscious, the deeply intellectual and spiritual, and the deeply nitty gritty and sometimes blamey and sometimes victim-y. Like I choose all of that. And when I choose it, then I can bring it into consciousness. If I'm denying any part of myself or saying that shouldn't be there, or I need to heal it in that way, hey, I need to heal that, is a lot different than like, I need to heal that, or I need to hide that, or that's not a part of me. Any part that I deny will start to come out sideways. So especially for us as women, We're supposed to be independent and strong and have it all together. When, in my experience, working with women is most of the time we are fucking scared. We actually don't know our direction in life. We're all kind of floundering around to figure out how to do this thing, make money, but stay in integrity and participate in capitalism, but not too much, and understand patriarchy, but don't blame our brothers. Like, it's like a constant do this, but don't do it like that. Do this, but don't do it like that. Do this, but don't do it like that. So no wonder our feminine bodies and our feminine systems have come up with this technique of, am I okay? Am I okay? Am I okay in our friendships, in our intimate relationships, with each other, and with everyone in the fucking grocery store, right? One of the things that would drive me crazy, especially when I was first working with plant medicine, like 13, 14 years ago, walking to the grocery store was horrifying for me because I could feel the judgment and I could feel the place in me that was like reaching and trying to figure out who was a friend and who was a predator, and this really interesting way that our nervous systems are constantly recalibrating to strangers that we'll never see again. We are actually not meant to interact with more than 150 people in our lifetime.
Wait, what?
Yeah, our nervous systems are set up as pack animals to have a tribe around 150, maximum like 500 people. And so the quantity of other nervous systems that are constantly in our field right now because of urbanization and because of the way the world is structured, we actually can't feel who's a predator and who's there to support us right now. Our nervous systems are really out of whack. And so part of what we've developed as a survival technique is this need for external validation. Are we okay? Am I okay? Is what I'm saying okay? Oh, you don't like what I'm saying? Can I tone it down? Can I say it in this way? How can I be more graceful? And in the New Cage spirituality vocabulary, it's like, am I conscious enough? Am I conscious enough? Am I conscious enough? Is this kind enough? And what I want to say is consciousness is just being able to name our behaviors, whether they're good or bad or high frequency or low frequency, doesn't matter. Can I actually narrate what I'm doing and the intention behind it? That's consciousness. Consciousness is not like, and then my life is perfect and I walk everywhere making choices from a place of complete grace. No, consciousness is, I'm in a shit cycle right now and I can name it, and I can name that I can't do this on my own. That's consciousness. So I really want to deconstruct this idea that there's something to achieve within consciousness. It's literally just being able to slow down enough to narrate the experience and put names to the wacky, weird shit that our brain is doing all the time. Our brain is a story-making machine. It's a meaning-making machine. So it's going to constantly be making meaning about our world and what we're connecting. The invitation to grow here is, can we just let consciousness be consciousness? Notice the behavior. Notice if it's a behavior that we want to continue and if it's going to create more of what we want in our lives. That determines whether we want it or not. Defining something as good or bad, conscious or unconscious, isn't necessarily useful. Is this actually creating more of what I want in my life? That's where I came to with validation. Like, I'm looking for so much external validation. I can't even name what I just went through for the past 4 years because I'm so worried about what other people are going to think of me. I just went through an abusive relationship and I'm worried about how other people are going to think of me. Sure, let's take into consideration the community. Yes, let's not attack people. Let's not go after and let's not seek vengeance. That's all great. But that piece of shutting myself down because I was worried about what my friends were going to think about me, because I was worried about what community was going to think about me. This piece of learning how to self-validate our experience while still getting feedback from those who are around us. It's a dance that we're in, especially as the feminine rising, especially within the feminine principle. The process of self-validation is us walking out of our participation in patriarchy. If we as women, as pussy havers, as womb bearers, want to walk out of participating in patriarchy, we get to learn how to self-validate.
So we're now, okay, for example, we're walking to a gathering. There's somebody in the gathering that there's an attraction towards. Clocked them. Oh my gosh, so-and-so's here. I can feel it inside of my being. I'm going to give them some eye contact real quick. Okay, I gave some eye contact. They didn't really look back. Oh my gosh, there's other people in this room that are way more attractive than me. I'm much less attractive. Okay, now I don't feel valuable in the space, and now I'm starting to get a little social anxiety because I feel like I'm not being noticed, and therefore I must not be pretty enough. And then it turns into, I'm unworthy. What do I say? Am I even being noticed? Okay, so the cycle has begun.
Yeah.
How do we, outside of just self-validating, which is like, I got you, how do we break that down? Because that's not just something I feel like gets broken down and being like, I got you. Oh, it's all gone now.
Yeah. No, it's a full process, right? So it's a journey over time. So in that one moment, it may not be able to be addressed and transmuted. But being a part of a life that I have fully chosen is a big part of the process of self-validation. So it's creating an ecosystem by which we as women, womb bearers, pussy havers, can actually say yes to the life that we want. We actually have to create a system in our whole life. So the self-validation isn't just because of this one attraction piece. It's because when I show up for my work every day, it's magical. And the clothes that I wear mean something to me. Like this was created by an artist that I'm connected to. I can choose that, right? I choose my life. My car, I've chosen my car. My friends, I choose my friends. I'm really particular about who I spend time with right now. And the ones that I do, the ones I reach out to, that's gold. So in the moment where I'm having that flirty thing and maybe he's not responding, my whole life is set up to validate me. Not just that moment of me communicating back. So if we want to talk about self-validation, it's from the place where I bank, credit union, to the place where I invest my money, cryptocurrency, hiring someone to do that for me. It's the clothes that I buy and the artists I interact with on Etsy and around the world. It's the shoes that I wear. It's the food that I eat. It's the people I choose to interact with. So that if that one person rejects me, I have a whole world that's validating me. Validation is an ecosystem, not a moment decision, but it comes from those moment decisions that create the ecosystem. So in that moment, there's lots of tools and techniques. One of my favorite is the sacred pause that I love of like noticing when I'm in the reach. I'm calling it the reach, the great reach. Maybe a conversation with this person that then leads to the thing that then leads to the thing that leads to that thing that goes in our brain. When I catch myself doing that now, because I'm in this great energetic celibacy, the great divide, the energetic celibacy, when I start to notice that part of myself, there's 3 things that I do. I take a deep breath and just be like, oh, you're cute. Like I validate myself for doing the thing that I'm not supposed to be doing. I let myself know that it's already working and I validate the shit out of myself that I caught it. So I'm not punishing myself, right? Like that's the big piece, I think, especially for women that we get to walk out of. Punishment actually doesn't work. When I punish myself for not exercising, the probability that I'm going to exercise again goes up a little bit. But then when I don't, the punishment again and again and again and again is what wears me down over time to not go back in a consistent way.
Because going to the gym or movement is based off of a practice of self-love, but punishing oneself again and again and again erodes that very self-love that's going to be the piece that's going to get you to your gym in the first place.
Yeah, the opposite of self-punishment is self-validation, right? And so validation is literally about starting to have our GPS turned on rather than just running from the monster in the rearview mirror. Like, oh, I'm not going to use punishment to inspire myself anymore. So number 1 is I'm not punishing myself when I catch myself in a loop of reaching, whether it's a friend who hasn't texted me back or the guy who's not paying attention to me or whatever that is. When I notice that, I validate the shit out of myself. And I like to say, I celebrate you, Briana. Like I celebrate you. I love you. I see you. I choose you. You're fucking rad. And like, you're doing that funny pattern thing. And I caught you and it's great. I'm so glad I caught you. You're so fucking cute. You're so fucking cute. And I can see the parts in me that like, just want to be seen and just want to be pretty and just want to be like, as minimizing as it is, like just be seen as like the pretty, pretty princess. And like just be celebrated and worshiped as the feminine goddess that I am and like be seen for my power and my beauty. And none of that will come in an authentic way until I can truly give that to myself. And so the first step is to catch it. The second step is like make it fun in some way, move the energy in some way, whether it's like, okay, now I'm going to go dance or I'm going to go outside and do hip circles or like I'm going to talk to a girlfriend about it or I'm going to swamp, which is another practice that I love from Mama Gina. And I also teach it in my programs. But like having a process to move the energy. Okay, number 1, I notice the energy. It's not conscious, which means it's in my body. Number 2 is move your fucking body. Like let the body express, okay, I'm having this desire and it's from this individual person and the meaning that I'm making about it is this. fucking dance that shit out. It takes maybe 30 seconds of a hard dance to move energy that's caught in the moment. And then the final piece is just to continue to refine what it is that I actually want in my life. Like, what is it that I'm actually looking for? The longer game or the long-term game is I want a partner who wants to partner with me in every way and have a masculine in my life that can be a drum beat for my harmony. Great. So after I've moved the energy, I then take that reach and I energetically put it on the altar of the partner that's already looking for me. I'm like, I'm giving this to you, baby. I have a bigger vision. So every little thing that we do that's seeking validation then becomes fuel for the thing that we actually want to create. When I'm seeking validation from an outside source, the ultimate tool in that is using it as fuel for the bigger vision. So I'd say those are the three pieces. Noticing it, celebrating the shit out of it, bragging that you caught it. Number two, moving the body, moving the energy in a way that honors what is and allows it to naturally transmute itself. And then number three is allowing all of that juice to be used for the actual vision of what's desired.
This is helpful because now we have some steps towards it and acknowledging that it exists. And it's just interesting for you to give context to energies that I think just organically and subconsciously present themselves in group situations and can be masked under many forms of like social anxiety or, you know, the way that you're speaking into this and giving a context for it, it makes me think about with my hearing decreasing and being in social settings and not being able to have conversations with people and how challenging it's been. And I've stopped myself there in the exploration of just being like, it's challenging for me to not be able to connect with people. But there's a deeper layer that is revealing itself while I'm having this conversation with you, while I'm listening, is that it's actually that I need them to validate that my presence is enough in the space, or that my presence is felt or heard or seen in the space, so that creates validation for me that it's good that I'm there, that I'm not just taking up space, but I'm actually contributing. Now, if I'm not having a conversation with someone because I can't hear them, then all of a sudden I can go into this spiral of I'm not contributing anything to the space, so I'm not being seen, I'm not valued, I'm not being validated for my presence. And clearly there is an area where I'm not validating myself, which is leaving me in this position of social anxiety, which feels like any conversation now that comes up, I'm like, you know, like short breath about it and just feel really like uncomfortable in the small talk. And I keep thinking about, you know, stop, drop and roll kind of thing. Like
100%. When you catch a stop, drop and roll right now.
In the middle of a small talk conversation and I can't hear what's going on and they've clearly asked me a question. I've clearly responded to the wrong question. And it's like this awkward pause and all I want to do is just roll out of there.
Yeah. Stop, drop and roll. I just need a self-validation moment. I'm going to sit awkwardly.
Yeah. And also specifically in like new spaces. This past week I was in Arizona at a Fit for Service Summit, and I was one of the facilitators. And this whole crew's been doing it many times, and they all, you know, connecting with each other. And I could feel there's this part of me that wants to prove that I'm worthy to be there. Like, oh yeah, I'm a speaker and this is what I'm going to talk about. So then I get feedback of like, yeah, that'll be great. That'll be really useful and you're going to rock it. And then I go, yeah, I'm going to rock it. But like that didn't, yeah, I'm going to rock it came from me. That came from the validation of somebody being like, yeah, you got this. And then I then believe it deeper that I've got this, even though I've always known that I've got this at the core of my being. I needed someone in that moment to say, yeah, you got this. But then being like, oh, they see that I've got this. Cool.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah.
I want to understand where this come from though. Yeah. Like there's this fabric of needing validation left, right, and center that is playing consciously or unconsciously, I think in all of our lives to a certain degree. Would you say that it's accurate to say that we got this from, you know, the first, I'd say 3 years of our life, that we didn't really know ourselves unless it was through the eyes of our mother? Of like,
well, there's two pieces that I want to touch on here. One is validation from others is not a bad thing. It's great. I love being validated. There's a difference between the reach, that longing, or like, I can't do it without that, and feeding that hungry ghost, versus like, hey, I have this thing and I would love your validation on it because I have some insecurities around it. That's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with external validation. It's that if I make it mean that I'm not worthy without it, the beingness of who I be. Validating that versus getting feedback or having a group or having a team. We're tribe beings, we're pack animals. So validation is a way that we've helped each other survive. Feedback and validation is a way we've helped each other survive. It's if I base my identity or if I'm doing it right or wrong only on someone else's feedback and not first on my own. That is the slippery slope.
It reminds me of, okay, so you love memes. You posted a meme a long time ago. I don't know if you remember this one, but it's like two WWF wrestlers or
yes,
something.
I know exactly. I made this one.
You made this one?
I made this one. This is a meme I made.
It's perfect. It literally spoke to my soul because there's like one wrestler in front that is kind of like looking like this and
surprised and giddy.
Huh?
Looking surprised and giddy in the front. Yeah.
And it says something along the lines of, I've just expressed myself creatively and now I'm just in that pause. And then there's the wrestler behind that's like in the shadow and like looking over the shoulder.
Yeah.
And it's something along the lines of the critical side of my consciousness that's trying to completely break down how that wasn't okay or whatever, not the right wordings, but you get the general gist of it. That I resonated with that because it's the beginning processes of the creative process of sharing a song in a ceremony that I've only ever shared with one other person and I haven't practiced a whole lot, but it's like new and I'm excited to share it and I share it and then it's quiet afterwards and no one's going, good job, that was beautiful. And it's just me, myself and my own inner critic and that man that's over the shoulders going, that was out of key. You ruined the space. What are you doing? Never sing again. Yeah. Burn your guitar and move to Iceland. That part is like,
that's the one we want to catch. That's the one we want to catch. That's the part that we're talking about. That's the one who would turn to someone and be like, did I do okay? Because I have this giant monster in my head now that I can't address. Learning how to address that on our own might require help sometimes, right? I've already spoken about two of the people on my team. I have a lot of people on my team who support me, but I have a professional therapist and a coach who have helped me validate myself to the point where I can now say what has even happened to me for the past 4 years. So there's nothing wrong about that internal critic being there. We'll talk a little bit about how that got implanted in there, but it's about learning how to catch it and just be like, oh, look, there you are again. WWF wrestler with a chair over my head. Look at you. I don't believe you anymore. I see that you're there and now we're going to dance you. And now I'm going to paint even more. And now I'm going to express you in a poem. And now I'm going to go on a podcast and tell about all your dirty little secrets and how you work within my body specifically so that hopefully others can say, oh, I have that too. I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. Especially within the new age spirituality movement, I see a lot of these measurements of who's doing it better. It's like, your shadow is gone. Your shadow will never be gone. The shadow doesn't leave. The North and South Pole aren't going to neutralize at some point. The shadow is there to let us know the places that still need to be loved. That's all it is. There's no extraction. There's no demon inside of you. There are just deeper places to be loved, accepted, and validated. Not that the behavior is okay or what they're saying is okay, but that part of us is developed because we've been told that we've been lacking. So where did this all come from was the original question. Where the fuck did lack programming come from? Where did the need to get validation from others come from? There's a couple of layers. One is just base survival. We need each other. When we come out of the womb, we cannot survive. We need touch, we need food, we need care, we need attention, we need someone to pick us up from point A to point B, we need someone to clean us. So that whole process of us, we're one of the few mammals who actually needs care. Most mammals, when they're born, are fucking ready to go. You're a whale, you can swim. You're a horse, you gotta run. You're a zebra, get away from the lion. Now, we're one of the few mammals that actually has developed a codependency as our first 9 months of our life. And then we spend the rest of our lives beating ourselves up for being codependent. We were born codependent. So codependency isn't the issue. The issue is that we've made up a meaning that at some point we have to stop receiving validation from anyone. And we're not taught by modeling of how to give that validation to ourselves. So parents teaching children, the top-down model of the mother teaching the daughter how to treat herself by, I'm the mother, I'm going to tell you what to do. doesn't work. The way our nervous systems learn from each other is actually how we treat ourselves. You said it really well in the Aubrey Marcus podcast of how you've learned from me. It's not that I taught you universal energy medicine. I didn't teach you how to sing in ceremony. I modeled it. I showed you how much trust I had in my own nervous system, in the lineages that have taught me, in the music that flows through me. I trust my vessel so deeply that I can magnify that field out into the space and trust everyone else to trust themselves. That's the type of parenting that we haven't seen on the planet for a long time. Our children learn maybe 10% of what we say and 100% of what we feel and think about ourselves. These are energetic water babies that are constantly learning from the energy and the self-talk that we have on the inside. And that's really where the imprint comes from. Mom giving us attention or not giving us attention, yes, that will affect us. Mom hitting us or not hitting us, that will affect us. Absolutely. But the thing that affects us the most is actually how mom thinks about herself, or how dad thinks about himself, or whatever parent was in, or parent figure was in our field that we were receiving that energetic imprint from, that nervous system imprint. The one who we considered the authority is the one that we inherit their nervous system imprint from. So our response to needing validation is the energetic imprint from our parents that they receive from their parents, that they receive from their parents, that they receive from their parents. And for about the past 6,000 to 10,000 years, we've been working within a system of domination that puts certain bodies and certain behaviors over others, that says, in order to be a valuable human on this planet, you must achieve these things. And if you don't, then you're not a valuable human being. We live within that programming. And so self-validation is inherently not taught, because if we were self-validating, we wouldn't need to buy as many things. We wouldn't need to get the approval from the king. We wouldn't need to get the approval from the general. We wouldn't need to get the approval. Like, the whole system of patriarchy and domination and control is based on needing to get the approval of someone with more authority than myself. When I start to self-validate, it is the largest act of revolution against authoritarian control, whether it's governmental, intimate relationship, from the medical community. When I can start to self-validate and have unconditional friendliness, that's from Pema Chodron. Thank you, Pema. Love that phrase. Unconditional friendliness towards whatever it is that arises within me, I become the biggest threat to the society that says you need to buy more, you need to fuck more, you need to eat more, you need to look better, you need to, when I'm like, actually, everything is okay. I'm okay right now. Like, just try it with me. I'm okay right now. Everything is okay right now. The way I look, the way I sound, the way I talk, the way I walk, my bank account, everything's okay right now. That is the biggest act of revolution. That is the biggest act of evolution for us as human beings on this planet at this time.
Imagine if we started our day with that conversation with ourselves.
Let's start our day with that conversation with ourselves.
Even just you saying that one sentence, like, I didn't even realize how many narratives are running in my consciousness that say, okay, and then when we get over this, then we've got to put this together, and then we've got to create this, and then we've got to clean the house, and then I've got to build the thing, and and just to say everything is okay as it is right now, the way that I look, the way that I dress, the money that I have, like all of that, it just creates, it's almost like a record that's playing in the background. All of a sudden it goes, and it just stops. And it's like, silent. And would you say that that is the silence of the patriarchal conditioning that we have playing in the background 24/7?
Absolutely. Patriarchy, domination, and that constant need for consumerism. Constant need to, like, then the laundry and then the dishes, especially for us as women, pussy havers, femme-ID'd, we're told that we can do everything, so we should. An empowered woman is a boss babe with breastfeeding both her children, showing up at the UN in stilettos that were ethically made. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. I feel like women are more in prison now than we've ever been in human history, yet we have more access to rights and expression than ever. Because what is being expected of us within society is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. One thing at a time, and everything is okay right now as it is. I think it's great to have goals. I think it's wonderful to build a life that we absolutely love. But if it's in an attempt to prove that we can do it, if it's in an attempt to run away from a monster or prove to the world or prove to our mother or give someone else the power in any way, we're just right back in the system of domination. The way we get off the rat wheel ultimately is everything is okay exactly as it is, and so is my desire for more.
Mm-hmm.
And holding both of those as true and reveling in the paradox of right now, my body is fucking good. I also have a desire for stronger biceps, and that's good too. I love my bank account. I love the way that money is coming in, and I desire to be a millionaire next year. I desire to make $1 million in 2022. Fantastic. Both of those things can be true. If I can stop devaluing my what is in order to inspire me to get to the next step, that is the biggest movement of deconstructing the internal patriarchy. Gratitude is not a thought. Gratitude is an experience. And gratitude is the full acceptance of everything as it is right now. It's not a list of shit that I've accumulated. It's not a list of the relationships that aren't on fire. Gratitude is the felt experience of that silence, of not needing to do anything to prove my worth. That's gratitude. That's freedom. Mm-hmm. That's love. It is ultimately what we are, is that silence outside of the programming, that I need to do this thing, I need to get this done, I need to accomplish this thing in order for me to be seen as valuable. What we are as value, like we talked about in the Money podcast, is inherently always infinite love, light, extravaganza. Mm-hmm. Can I remember that even in the building and constructing and deepening and expansion of my life? Or am I just deepening and expanding my life to give myself some sort of validation for something that can never be validated? What and who we actually are can never be proven to ourselves. Mm-hmm. But that process of learning how to self-talk and learning again how to revel in those infinite moments of everything is okay as it is, and so is my desire for more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The desire for more also is just the never fully quenched enthusiasm for the where we can explore in the human experience, the amount of things that we can study, the people that we can connect with, the places that we can travel, the different tastes that we can experience. Like, it's fun.
Oh, the best.
And what it sounds like you're breaking it down is the where is it coming from based off of the why of am I grabbing that? Because ultimately, if it's coming from needing validation, then actually true happiness is not found in even if the thing is acquired. Mm-hmm.
Happiness is the realization that I already always am everything I want and need. And then from that place, creating a life where I can play with that energy. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. The ultimate beloved is myself. The ultimate romantic relationship is with ourselves. Mm-hmm. And when I can build that relationship to a juice where I can feel that in every cell of my body, then every relationship becomes a reflection of that belovedship. And I won't accept anything other than that. Mm-hmm. Same with anything that I bring into my field. My relationship with my belovedship with myself has amplified my wardrobe, has amplified my taste, has amplified my ability to discern what and who I actually want in my field, because of the validation that I give myself. And again, this is notes from a student in the field. I want to be super clear. I am not an expert in this. I come from a background of eating disorder and a lot of self-deprecation and being in a church where it was all about being a sinner and carrying the sins of the world. And I was going to have to prove my life by being a servant of God. And I see it a lot in the New Age spirituality too, of like, I'm being of service, I'm being of service, I'm being of service. A bunch of martyrs walking around because we have this weight of original sin. We have this weight of feeling like we were born into an evil system and we're part of the evil empire. And it's like, wow, let's just slow it all way down. Everyone is absolutely beautiful, absolutely okay, absolutely perfect, exactly as they are. And so is the desire for something more. So is the desire for deeper refinement. So is the desire for deeper healing. So is the desire and need to address the trauma in our fields. And exactly as you are right now is perfect in the wholeness of what it be as human experience. That holding of that paradox is the peace outside of the patriarchy, is the peace outside of the rat race, is the peace outside of just accumulation for accumulation's sake. Everything is perfectly okay as it is, and so is my desire for more.
Mm-hmm. I feel like a really great exercise to gift people, or like a little growth work around this piece, is to choose a day, preferably like tomorrow.
Yeah,
because then you've got like the full day, to 100% of the time self-validate just for the full day, as if it's date day with the lover that we've like had our eyes on for the past 10 years. And finally we're connecting in this way and the stars have aligned. Can I, for a day, hang out with myself and validate myself as if I would that person that we have desired in our lives? I think that this is to be a really powerful piece that we start the day in the inquiry of how can I be at complete peace with where I'm at in this moment, and for the day as an invitation to set up a self-validation practice.
I'm so into this, like self-validation day.
Do we have a hashtag for it? We can hashtag it.
Yeah, self-validation day.
Okay, but it's a long hashtag.
SVD.
Huh?
SVD.
SVD. Hashtag SVD.
Self-validation day.
You can even do the full tag as
You
well.
can. Do them both.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm into it.
There's a challenge.
Into it. It's so good. I actually have an app right now that I just got that sends me text. It's its own little app, and it pops up messages every day. I'm going to pull it up just so I know that.
What's it called?
I'll look it up right now. It's called YAP, YAPP, and you can program messages into it that it sends you throughout the day.
So you write the messages?
I have 9 messages that
What message have you got?
One of them is like, I'm the baddest bitch I know. All money in my field is in integrity. I choose me. I love you. Just like different messages that I've sent myself.
And they just like pop up as a notification?
As a notification. Just like little text messages from myself. I have 9 of them, and I get them like every few hours just from myself, giving myself that validation of like the texts that I wish I got from my beloved's now giving me those texts. And so just these little tools and techniques, I think Post-it notes are a great one. I love writing future letters to myself as well, of like, in the future when I need to be validated, here's a time where and I do it genuinely when I'm feeling fucking juiced, and like actually write out what it is that's going so well in my life. And then I put it in an envelope and put it somewhere. And then when I need it, it's there. So these are practices for our self-validation day, SVD. Taking ourselves on a date, I think is huge. Even if you're in a relationship, actually asking yourself, what's my ideal date and how can I create that for myself?
Yeah. I love it.
I love it too.
I love it too. And so also I'm thinking like, date night, it can be sexy and sensual, and running a bath and putting rose petals everywhere and lathering oneself up with coconut oil and nice lingerie with lace and the whole thing. And it's like, oh, you're going on date night? Yeah, with myself. And I'm only going to say the nicest thing to her.
Everything I've ever wanted to hear.
I like it.
Yeah,
Safe validation. Alrighty, Rev Briana.
SVD.
SVD.
Self-validation day.
All right,
Every
fams,
day.
if you're listening to this and you're tuning in, or wherever you are, whatever you're doing, it's time to take on the SVD challenge. And go ahead and tag it on Instagram, tag us both.
Yeah.
And invite people into the movement of self-validation day and make it your own. It could even be self-validation week or self-validation month.
Life. SVL.
Well, that's really the intention here.
Yes,
it's to start getting a feeling for how good it feels to actually become our biggest cheerleader. And then from that place, it's a sustainable model because it's based off of a feel-good feeling, as opposed to I'm not enough and therefore I should be doing this. It's actually going like, wow, 80% of the day out of the 60,000 thoughts I think on a daily basis, they're disempowering, and they're telling myself that I'm unworthy, and I'm creating this internal clock that goes, oh, -1 for Blue because I'm not the most attractive person in the room. And then, oh, now I can't hear. And then there's that too. And then all of a sudden I didn't get eye contact from the person that I have a crush on. And there's that one too. And now all of a sudden I may as well disappear because I'm a piece of worthless shit. That's the internal conversation of the toxic patriarchy structure in the consciousness of those that have not learned to self-validate.
AKA myself, like earlier this morning. You know what I mean? Like we had to catch it. The programming is thick.
It's
real
thick, insidious, and also acts like us. Like it's got like a mask that looks identical to us. And so then it's like very difficult to distinguish what has been picked up and what is mine.
Mm-hmm. And most selling within all industries is done from a lack of self-worth, whether it's the yoga industry or the corporatocracy of pharmaceuticals. All of it, most of it comes from you're not good enough. You need to buy this thing. You're not good enough. Buy this yoga pass. You're not good enough. Buy these yoga pants. You're not good enough. Buy this thing. So not only is it received from our genetic line, it's also imbued into our life. Oh, maybe if I do this training, I'll finally be good enough. Or maybe if I do this thing, maybe if I read David Data's work, I'll finally get the right man. Like this idea that we'll finally find the thing that will fix us and we'll finally be able to receive the love that we're looking for. The love that we're looking for is our own. And you're not going to get it in a weekend workshop. You're not going to get it from that teacher. You're not going to get it from those Lululemon pants. You're going to get it from self-validation, which ultimately is God just talking to herself.
Put your hands in the air if you're guilty of not self-validating. Yeah.
Big time. Big time. Big time.
My shirt's come undone while I'm dancing.
I'm okay with that.
Chelsea literally just on the back of the screen was like, Blue, your shirt is like opening up.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, Blue. You did such a good job and now you're going to close it and you're self-validating in real time.
You did great. Got a little extra for the Patreon members, you know what I'm saying?
behind the scenes backstage access to my left
OnlyFans,
boob.
Patreon members that want to contribute, please go to Blue's Patreon because this podcast doesn't pay for itself. Join her Patreon.
Because after the show, it's the after party. Amazing. This is such a huge, important topic. And just the way that you're speaking into it and giving context for something that has been playing for God knows how long. And simultaneously just catching it. It's just like, oh, hey, there it is. And that is definitely the first stage of like recognizing this doesn't need to be just the default of how I operate in group situations, but just recognizing, oh, there's a program that's running here that's actually draining my life force energy and actually creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that says, I'm not going to be noticed, but then also shrinks into the background, doesn't say anything. And then all of a sudden what happens is not many people notice because the energy is of that repellent. So it's like constantly creating a cycle. And also just seeing how it does, like even just scrolling on Instagram feed and being like, oh, this clothing brand, oh, these clothes are cute. Oh, maybe this person will be more attracted to me if I dress like this or if I do that or if I have this hair or whatever it is. It's there and it's thick and it's present and it wants to be caught and it wants to be rewritten and it wants to be validated from a place of internal sustainable source.
I love myself.
Yeah, throw me some mantras out. That would be good mantras for self-validation.
Yeah, I choose me. I really love that one. I love also like, I see the behavior and I love you anyway. I see what you're doing and I love you anyway. Or I see you what you're doing and I love you because of it. I see the way your mind is working. Look at what your mind is doing right now. Curiosity instead of punishment, right? Like, wow, that's a great mantra. Wow, look at what I'm doing right there. Look at how I'm doing. Look at that. Allowing there to be almost like a childlike fascination with the characters in my brain. What did you just say? Is another mantra that I love to give my body of like, what did you just say? Oh, you think I'm fat from that direction? Well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. Like interacting with it. Another, I love, I'm the baddest bitch I know. I'm the baddest bitch. I really am. I am the baddest bitch I know. Like, I love that part of me. I love that. And then I like to work with animals too. So like I'm a fire-breathing dragon who loves to snuggle. That's me. I'm a fire-breathing dragon that loves the tender, that loves the snuggle. I'm super sensitive, but I'm a fucking big-ass reptile with a fucking fire breath that can be seen from miles away. Cool. And just naming these pieces of ourself that can oftentimes be things that we hide or things that we over-glamorize. Just naming what is often the best mantra.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like this is really helpful because I think that it touches everybody at different degrees, but it touches everybody. Understanding how the contract is created within our own consciousness and then creating practical solutions of things that we can really bring into our moment. And ultimately, the only way to truly understand, integrate, and transcend is to be in the contemplation of is life as the ceremony is. So bringing this piece into the next time you go into a public setting and you find yourself in a position where you're trying to avoid the small talk, or you're in a board meeting and you're at a table of people that are all talking, and then it's like, I feel like I need to say something to validate my position at this table, as opposed to actually saying something because I've got something that will improve the silence to say. And so this piece is within all of us at different degrees. So how can we bring this insight and bring this information to the biggest ceremony that exists, which is our life, and allow that to actually be the training ground of where this gets integrated from a deep level of self-validation. Mm-hmm. What do you think the life of the world would look like if we all started self-validating?
Oh my God. It just feels like a lot more snuggles. Like there would actually be a lot more love to give and receive, because I wasn't trying to get validation. Like, I don't need you to show up in any certain way because I've got my internal needs. I'm taking care of most of them. And so what can actually happen between us is just pure creativity. Like, is just a desire to be in the next living now together, rather than what can I get and what are you giving me? It would be less transactional. It'd be, I think, especially in intimate relationships, it wouldn't be about like what my mother has done or hasn't done, but like, how are we showing up now? Because we're both self-regulated, self-validating beings. I still think validation is great to give and receive from other people. It's when I'm like gasping for air, like I've been underwater for the past 20 minutes and now I'm finally coming up for air and someone's finally paying me attention. That's the piece that we're talking about, right? So I think if we can breathe and then be around each other, it wouldn't be so graspy and reachy and gasping.
All right, fam, it's time for SVD Day.
SVD.
Or the SVD, or Self-Validation Day, #. And I'm going to start tomorrow.
Great, me too.
You're already on that.
I'm on it, but
you came into the house
I'm
and I
going
was
to get
like,
the hashtag.
how you doing, babe? What's going on? You're like, I'm good. I'm self-validating. I married myself.
Yeah, literally.
I'm like, yes, this is a new flex.
Yeah.
And it's very powerful, because I think that it creates a very fertile soil for everything that we want to create from that point forward. Ultimately, it really comes down to self-love, which is the core of all
I think self-validation is the practice of self-love, right?
It's a
self-love
branch.
is the concept, self-love is the feeling, but self-validation is the practical day-to-day. How do I love myself? Oh, it's how I talk to myself. Yeah. It's how I hold the paradox of everything is okay as it is, and so is my desire for more.
I think that's a really beautiful one-liner to end it on. Everything everything is okay as it is, and so is my desire for more. Everything is okay as it is, and so is my validation. Oh no, so is my desire for more. So wow, I didn't get a great night's sleep last night, so I'm a little slower.
You're doing great. You're doing great. I'm going to validate you. You're doing
validate
fantastic.
myself.
Yeah.
You know,
There you go.
like, I'm doing good. I'm tired, but I'm doing good.
Yes. Brag it, you know? I think that's another practice that I won't go too into, but learning how to brag about things that we've even fucked. Like, I'm going to brag for you that you didn't get a lot of sleep last night and you're still showing up fucking amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Probably gotten under my breath.
Yeah.
But I'm really present.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna really be incorporating this into just the way that I weave from this point forward, because I think what you've highlighted here is just the amount still that is playing unconsciously of just like needing validation, and it's exhausting. And I did a lot of that with my parents, and that's really started to get nipped in the bud, which just felt like it's felt like chains coming off my wrists and my ankles of like, it's heavy to carry the desire to constantly be validated. It's a heavy, contracting, somatic experience that does not allow the deep inhale and exhale. It does not allow the to prosper, because a deep inhale and exhale, as Richard would share with me, is that it's our ability to prosper if we can breathe deep. And it's our ability to let in more love if we can breathe deep. But the short and shallow breath is a byproduct of not trusting in the moment, because the moment is not being self-validated. So it's really all linked to so many different things, and it's very insidious program because it seeps its way into all different areas of our lives, whether it comes to the food that's on our plate or the clothes that we wear on back or how we interact with the opposite sex or the same sex. Or, it's really, really interesting. And I'm really glad that you've brought this forward in a way that you've articulated it, given context to be able to receive this in a way that applies to everybody.
Such an honor and such a joy and such a pleasure to create with you, my lovely friend.
And we should be next time we do the podcast. We'll be in the new podcast set.
New podcast set.
Nobody knows about it yet.
Oh, I won't say anything.
I haven't posted any pictures. I haven't shared with anyone about what this podcast set looks like.
It's legit.
It's kind of exciting.
It's so gorgeous. It's royal and like earthy and very weird. Kind of like you.
It's totally me.
It's totally you.
Royal, earthy, and weird.
Perfect. That's your bio.
The esoteric dream, baby.
Gorgeous. We'll see you there.
All righty, mama. So, one final question. If you were a crab and you can't speak, obviously, because you're a crab.
Right.
And you can only you're meeting me and I'm another crab.
Yeah.
And I want you to say, hello, I love you, and fuck off.
Yeah.
And you can only use your pinchers.
Okay.
How would you say hello?
Like pinchers like this?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. And then I love you.
Okay.
And then fuck off. Ready?
Yeah. Oh, you gave me
Our
the
auditory
vibe.
listeners won't be able to get all of that, but you got to watch the YouTube for that one.
Yeah.
It was really good.
If you're listening to the audio, then go switch over to YouTube. Give us a thumbs up and a subscribe while you're at it.
Subscribe. We want 20,000 followers by next week. Okay, thanks. Bye.
I also really appreciate that you're like not curious why that was so left wing, that question.
No, I'm down.
Yeah.
Let's
It's
fucking go there.
One of my favorite go-to questions when I'm having awkward conversations at parties.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you were a crab.
Yeah. And my Cancer moon appreciates it. I'm like, yeah, I am a crab. Tell me more.
Where do I need to go with my crabness?
I'm ready.
Yeah. I've been ready since I was born for this question. Beautiful. It's always different for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I really like the passive aggressive fuck you.
Yeah. That's signature.
Like,
yeah.
And I'm out because I'm self-validating.
Yes. SVD.
That's 3D crab. Beautiful. Reverend Briana Lynn.
Blue.
Thank you for your presence,
My
your time,
pleasure.
your codes, your wisdom, your humor, your insights, your fierce dragon, and your soft, snuggly bear.
Yeah.
And everything in between.
Thank you, babe.
And you really dressed for the occasion today. Like, I asked if she had my whole life is pretty much set up through seeing the lens through the cheekies. And I'm like, oh, wow, you're really rocking the cheeky of exquisiteness today. With the gift of style, you've successfully meandered your way through the mediocrity in your life so that you've given yourself full permission to fully present yourself the way that you have. That's why I just want to reflect that and validate that back in your experience, that your own self-validation is showing.
Yeah. Girl looks fly.
Girl, you the baddest bitch I know.
I'm the baddest bitch I know. It's true. Thank you. It's true.
All righty. The beautiful Bluebird. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Deja Blu Podcast. Kiss goodbye to this set because we will soon be having a very esoteric wet dream of a set. We will be excited about it. Mm-hmm. And we'll be having more of Reverend Briana Lynn on the podcast, but of course, to share more wisdom. If you are interested in hearing Reverend Briana Lynn talk about a very specific topic, then feel free to reach out to us and let us know something that you would love her to riff upon, because this woman can go for days without stopping. All I have to do is throw her like a Cubone. It's just like
one word. Just give me a word.
Validation, go. And you're like, so if you want to throw her any keywords, feel free. And how are we going to find you on socials?
At Rev Briana Lynn, BrianaLynn.
Amazing.
Rev.
And then give me a website.
TheEarthTemple.com.
Unless we want to check out some of our really, really next level offerings, some stuff in person, some sacred ceremonies, some vision quests. You can meet the facilitators. There's book recommendations there. It's a beautiful website. Lots of beautiful videos that are coming out.
You're
right
on
now.
the website. You're part of our Earth Temple Council.
I'm there. Yeah.
Leadership team.
I'm right there in the roots of the experience of it.
Yes,
I've been
you
there
are.
with
Since the
you.
beginning.
And received a lot.
And given a lot.
Of equal measure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's been a journey and it's been a beautiful, beautiful family and that's held me in the context of the fullness of who I am. That can go deep enough to hold me in the depth in which I go and then be like, hi, I'm also not scared. We good?
Yeah.
Invaluable. Yeah. Thank you for everything that you do.
So much my pleasure.
And keep your eyes peeled for the TEDx talk that's coming. Yeah, I'm really excited for that one too. So there's so much going, there's so much brewing, there's so much happening. And wherever you are, whatever you're doing outside of listening to this podcast, I guess, which pretty much answers my question, may you feel loved and seen and celebrated. And if you resonate with this podcast, if there's something in it that you feel like you would love to share it, please post it on your Instagram stories, share it far and wide, tag us both so that we can repost it, create a beautiful, intricate web and connection of those that wish to spread this message so that we can all start validating ourselves and the world that we live in becomes just a little bit more snuggly.
Just a bit more snuggly, please.
Take that with a side of snuggles.
Yeah.
All righty, bust until next week.
Bless.